Chapter 8. Snapper.
I wasn't the first one to get to Snapper. By the time that I got there, Flip was holding some cool, soft moss dipped in creek water up against the side of Snapper's mouth. Snapper didn't even want to talk, so there was no use asking him anything. He didn't throw any accusations at me, and I did not scold him. The truth was I felt pretty sick about it all. Here was my friend, seriously hurt, and there was very little that any of us could do to help him. When Flip took the moss away to dip it in the creek water again, I shuddered at the ragged tear that was exposed. Snapper had an ugly wound, all right. It was still bleeding some, though I was sure that the moss had helped it considerably. "It's getting late. Our folks are going to wonder where we're at. We'd better get on home."
Oh, well, what am I going to tell them?
"It's dark. They likely won't even notice, if we all just keep our mouths shut."
Well, that might be fine for tonight, but morning's going to come again, and what then?
Just say, we've got all night to think of something. Come on, if we don't hurry and get home, we're going to have a lot of explaining to do tonight. Our folks won't wait for morning." Snapper pushed away the moss that Flip was holding. He looked at me and his eyes held a challenge. I hoped that the pain would be enough to keep his mouth closed, but it wasn't.
"That's fine for you. Oh, wait till morning. You won't be around when my folks wake up and want to know about this."
"That's right. He'll have to face it alone."
We got to think of a good story tonight.
"How about the truth?"
"What do you mean?" Flip stood his ground, not even drawing his head back into his shell a fraction of an inch. He looked me right in the eye.
"It's not right to lie. You know that. Besides, it's not even smart. He's hurt. He's not going to be able to hide it. His folks will see it for themselves. Seems to me that anything you make up won't make as much sense as the truth does. He got caught by a fish hook. Anyone who looks at him can accept that. You make up some crazy story, it just won't add up, and he'll be in more trouble than he's in now."
"It's Snapper's mouth. It's his decision." That seemed to settle it for all of them. We started the swim back home. We didn't talk as we traveled. Personally, I was hoping that everyone would already be settled for the night when we arrived, and we wouldn't have to answer any questions. I also hoped that Snapper's jaw would make a miraculous recovery overnight, so that we would never need to explain what had happened. It didn't happen that way. Our folks were still waiting for us when we arrived, and we had to listen to a scolding for being so late. My folks grounded me for the next 3 days. I heard later that Snapper's folks were plenty upset. They grounded Snapper, too. He did as Flip had suggested and admitted that we had been messing around with fishhooks just to bug the fishermen. They were upset, all right, but I think that with his torn-up mouth, they babied him a bit, too. I saw his sisters and brothers scrambling around finding him bugs and things for his breakfast. Those 3 days sure did pass by slowly. I thought that they'd never end. The boys even came to the swimming hole once. I heard their yell, and when without even thinking I moved forward to go watch all the fun, my father opened his eyes, and without even sticking out his head, stopped me in my tracks.
"Where do you think you're going? I didn't know it was Thursday already."
I forgot. By the time that our grounding had ended and we got together again, Snapper's mouth was beginning to heal. There were scabs where the tear had been, and he still couldn't talk much. He sort of slurred his words, trying not to open his mouth as he spoke. It was hard for him to eat, too, and I was afraid that he'd lose a lot of weight before he was well again. It should have happened to Tubbsy, I said to myself. He could stand to lose some of that flab. I glanced at Tubbsy, hoping that he couldn't read my thoughts. I guess he couldn't, because he looked at me and grinned, glad that we were all back together again, and wondering what I was going to find for all of us to do. I was saved by the sound of tramping feet. The boys were back again. "Well, let's go see if they've come up with anything new." By the time we arrived, the boys were already splashing in the water. 2 of them had brought flat sliding things to use on the steep creek bank. The others insisted on taking their turns, too, and most of the action that day was on that bank. It did look like fun. Even Snapper seemed to forget his sore mouth for a while as we watched the boys climb up, slide down, and go splashing into the water.
Boy, I wish I could do that.
It was exactly what I had been thinking. I decided to watch them very closely and see if I could figure out just how it could be done.